Just a quick note before we begin. I'm an American, and I will be absolutely butchering this French philosopher's name for the entirety of this video. I'm sorry. Simulacra. First of all, if you're confused, yes, that is the correct response. It's okay, we can't all be Lana Wachowski sneaking cool philosophical Easter eggs into our films. Oh, Jean Baudrillard? Yeah, I've read him. Have you tried? Because I tried, and Baudrillard's work is fruit cake dense, and after trying to read him, I am certain he was born a 45-year-old tenured professor.
Il n'y a rien d'extérieur auquel il puisse se mesurer et auquel il puisse se comparer, se calculer en valeur, etc. Enfin, il n'y a pas de prix.
Do you see what I mean? Like, who talks like that? However, I scraped together some of my most treasured brain cells and figured some stuff out. Simulacra and Simulation is a 1981 it's an essay, by French philosopher Jean Baudrillard that explores the relationship between reality, symbols, and society. A simulacra is a copy without an original.
Huh?
Same, that's it. Sorry, we'll get to that. So I had a difficult time understanding this idea of simulacra at first. A copy without an original. I kept hearing that over and over again. A copy without an original. How can you have a copy if there's no original? What are you copying? So I went back to the example that Baudrillard gave of the map. Say you have a territory, and you make a map that is a 1-to-1 scale of that territory. That's a big ass map. Then we place the map over the territory. So you're walking on the map, living on the map, getting into Twitter arguments on the map. The map stays in place for years, even decades, and it begins to get worn out and threadbare. And eventually it's kind of hard to tell what's the map and what's the original territory poking through. Additionally, all the people who were around when the map was originally made are dead, and no one alive remembers a time without the map. Eventually, the map becomes the territory, to them at least. The map is real, and the territory has been forgotten. This is simulacrum. This is a copy without an original. The word that's always missing from this definition is anymore. A copy without an original anymore. A copy whose original has been lost or forgotten through too many iterations. Doesn't that make more sense? Words matter, people. Simulacra don't usually just appear, they happen over a long period of time. According to Baudrillard, there are 4 phases of simulacra that I will now explain using pumpkins. Phase 1, basic reflection of reality. This is a pumpkin. Pumpkin is pumpkin. Technically, this is an image of a pumpkin that you're watching on the internet, but I couldn't get a real pumpkin because it's May. So just pretend this is real. Just pretend this image is real in this video about simulacra. Phase 2, perverting or masking reality. Pumpkin pie. It has pumpkin in it, but it's processed and changed to fit a different purpose. Phase 3 of simulacra, masking the absence of basic reality. Pumpkin spice latte, something I know quite a lot about. It has literally 0 pumpkin in it, but the absence of the pumpkin in this pumpkin drink is hidden by the spices we associate with pumpkin pie. We are reminded of pumpkin, though no pumpkin exists. And phase 4, pure simulacrum, no relation to reality. Pumpkin pie coffee creamer. Not only is there no pumpkin, it's not even meant to reference pumpkin anymore, but a previous perversion, the coffee version. It's possible someone could live their entire life only drinking pumpkin pie flavored coffee and never having experienced a real pumpkin. This is detachment from reality, where the image itself is entirely self-referential and only serves to reflect other images or simulacra. Reality, as it was originally understood, a pumpkin, is no longer relevant or even considered. Real pumpkins have nothing to do with pumpkin pie coffee creamer. So why simulate reality? Well, because simulation is often kinder than reality. Hell of a lot of Americans won't eat fish, but we will eat fish sticks shaped like fish. And is simulation good or bad? Most people watching this would assume that simulation is an example of our increasingly dystopian world. And it is. But the consequences of simulation are kind of individual. If someone who is housebound finds a rich and rewarding community of friends in an online game, is that bad? I wouldn't say so. Reality is often disappointing. Who among us hasn't spent 20 hours on The Sims decorating a dream home you'll never own? Or painstakingly editing your character in a game to get you just right? The form will never achieve, the house will never have. It's easy to understand the appeal. Simulation is often reality with blunted edges. But there is a dark side to all this simulating the real world. So once phase 4 of Simulacra is achieved, we enter something Baudrillard calls hyperreality. I have to read this part, sorry. He describes hyperreality as a condition in which the distinction between reality and simulation has collapsed, and where simulation or simulacra do not just represent reality, but effectively replace it or become more real. So let's take a look at some of the symptoms of hyperreality, shall we? Symptom number 1 is a loss of meaning and authenticity. If the real is overtaken by simulations, it raises questions about the meaning and authenticity of our experiences. When everything feels fake, it's hard to find truth or meaning in anything. Symptom 2, passivity and manipulation. Hyperreality thrives on passive consumption of its own simulacra. People just passively take in all this fake stuff, allowing powerful people and corporations to use these fakes to control what we want, think, and do, and it encourages people to stop thinking for themselves. Symptom 3, fragmentation and alienation. With reality fragmented into all these different perspectives, it's hard to share experiences, and social cohesion is kind of lost. It's harder for people to share real experiences and feel connected to each other. Symptom number 4, erosion of identity. If reality is constantly shifting and malleable, it becomes difficult to maintain a stable sense of self. Identity in hyperreality becomes performative, based on external simulations rather than your true self. And this part really struck me as so poignant because this is exactly what goes on Instagram and TikTok. You see this performative version of this person leading an idyllic life, and you feel inadequate in an attempt to replicate that in your own life. But what you're replicating is fake, replicating false, inauthentic experiences in reality, and then being devastated and taking it so personally when you fail at the thing that is not real. I'm sorry, I got off track. Symptom number 5, moral and ethical dilemmas. So when the lines between real and simulated actions blur, it gets tricky to know what is right from wrong, and when you can't tell the fake actions from the real ones that actually matter. Fox News throwing a hissy fit about transgender teens in sports comes to mind. Like, this is the crisis of our generation. It's not climate change or microplastics. Those damn teen sports! Symptom 6, potential for social unrest. Frustration and disillusionment arising from living in a hyper-real world can lead to social unrest and even violence. It's frustrating living in a world that seems made up and meaningless. A lot of people would want to rebel against those creating the simulations, but of course you'd have to know and be able to differentiate the real from the simulation in the first place. Honestly, what's more likely is people will probably find a scapegoat, because it's so hard to just even put into words and language why you feel so bad. Why are you feeling so disillusioned and disconnected? Why does the world feel so made up and meaningless? Maybe it's teen sports. Stupid. Language and the loss of meaning. I feel like this shouldn't have to be said, but like, language is really important to civilizations. Sure, there are words that are flexible, like brother and sister, but there are some words that are so important that having them lose their meaning is downright dangerous. One of those, which we've seen happen over the last 10 years, is the word news. Now, to a great portion of the United States, news means absolutely nothing. News is whatever stupid bullshit you find on Facebook, and suddenly doctors and scientists are just people with strong opinions about viruses. That loss of meaning caused the unnecessary death of thousands of people because they couldn't tell the difference between real things and fake things. Some words just have to maintain their authenticity. For example, the word hospital really needs to mean what it means. And the breaking down of the word hospital would just be disastrous, sending people to random apartments where people who call themselves doctors just operate on you. Like, it's so gross. It reminds me of that scene in Minority Report.
Let me introduce my gorgeous assistant, Miss Van Eyck.
Smågrodorna är lustiga att se. Herregud.
I shouldn't even wash your hands. I'm sorry. The meaning of words collapses when people stop thinking critically about their definitions and holding firm boundaries on what they mean. When we passively accept the changing and manipulation of meaning, it opens up the way for political entities and corporations to radically change the way we think and respond. So we can see how hyperreality is actually quite dangerous. And also just like America, like I'm reading these definitions and I was like, that's just us. We are hyperreality. And apparently Jean Baudrillard agrees because he wrote an entire book about us called America. Remember, he's French, so he's from France, where they have real things still, like bread. How to avoid hyperreality? Oh, I have no idea. That's not entirely true. I do have some thoughts. First and foremost, I think it's important to maintain a solid standard for critical thinking. I mean, it can't hurt. Worst case scenario, you become just an insufferable contrarian, and I think that's probably better than the total collapse of reality. And push back when politicians and companies try to change language to suit their own purposes. Other than that, I don't know. Try to eat more fish, I guess. Thank you for watching my video about Simulacra. I'm Magdalene Rose, and if you enjoyed this video, please head over to patreon.com and you can pledge just $1 a month to support this channel, and I would really appreciate it. Good luck in the cyber dystopia, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!